dollars in mine expansions or new mines starting in the province. We expect this to continue, and so a significant part of the discussion was about infrastructure, supporting those communities that are seeing significant employment growth, economic growth, as we move to fulfill the world's needs around critical metals, minerals, energy, and so on. With the Public Safety Minister, we discussed at significant length, and also with the Prime Minister, the issue of extortion. South of the Fraser in Surrey, the focus of the conversation was on making sure that police have all the resources they need to be able to address this issue. In particular, we discussed the call from mayors for an escalation declaration of a state of emergency. Our consensus was to make sure that police are communicating adequately with the community, that they understand the seriousness of this, how profound this is for the community. To that end, the Prime Minister and I and our ministers have agreed that within the next 2 weeks, we will have a meeting of police leadership from Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and National Police at Green Timbers in Surrey, so that all police can be together. We can ensure there are no gaps in sharing information, that all resources that are needed have been delivered, and they can get a handle on this as the national issue that it is. To that end as well, the Prime Minister committed additional RCMP resources to British Columbia to allow us to free up more resources from the CFSEU that is already participating in the task force, but this will allow additional resources. That this is our gang enforcement team in British Columbia, allow those additional resources to join the front lines of the fight against extortion in our province. I also had a trilateral meeting with the Prime Minister and the Premier of Alberta to discuss issues of shared concern between British Columbia, Alberta, and Canada. We talked, of course, about being important trading partners with each other, and that the Western Canadian economies will be driving the path forward for Canada and how we can do that better. We talked about hydrogen, we talked about electrical intertie, and of course, we also talked about pipelines, both the optimization project of TMX, as well as Premier Smith's proposed pipeline across the north of British Columbia. Alberta has committed to keep British Columbia up to date on their progress on this project if they are successful in finding a proponent and as they identify potential sites along the coast that they wish to propose to the federal government for this project. I underlined the crucial importance of engaging with First Nations through this process. These are the same First Nations that are supporting in excess of $50 billion worth of energy projects already in British Columbia. And we need their continued support to be able to deliver those projects. LNG Canada Phase 2, Silizum's LNG, Cedar LNG, I could go on. So the involvement of First Nations was key. I underlined that. Alberta committed to keep us updated going forward. It was a good conversation, and I look forward to hearing more from them. In the meantime, I believe there are opportunities for us to work together on issues related to the shipment of ammonia to the coast, as well as electrical intertie and ensuring that both of our provinces have affordable and accessible electricity at peak times in the market. With that, happy to take any questions that you may have.
Hi, Premier. Lisa Mayer with CBC National News.
Yes.
How close did you come to an agreement in the meeting with Premier Smith and the Prime Minister about what a pipeline could look like through BC, and what are the outstanding issues for your province there?
Yeah, Alberta is not yet at a phase where they have even identified a site where the pipeline is going to exit to. They haven't identified a proponent that will be paying for it. The MOU requires a private proponent. They haven't engaged with First Nations along the coast or received consent related to that. So they are at a very early stage in this project. They've committed to keep us updated as we move forward, and I certainly expect that.
Hi, Premier Eby. Mark Ramsey with the Toronto Star. On another note, I just want to ask you about the federal NDP leadership race. I want to ask you, are you backing anyone in that? And what do you think about Avi Lewis potentially being the leader? He's praised some of your policies, but he's also publicly opposed what you're doing is specifically on LNG. What do you think about him being the leader?
Yeah, I'm not endorsing any of the leadership candidates for the federal NDP. I'm sure the members will choose the right candidate.
I agree with Abby. And not Abby's, or just follow-up discussion?
I'm not endorsing any of the candidates.
Hi, Premier. Just following up on the commitment to keep BC appraised of developments with the Alberta MOU and the potential pipeline project, I'm curious, what conversations have you had personally with Danielle Smith between the moment the MOU was signed and today? And also, what's your red line for a potential pipeline project? What's your non-negotiable?
Well, I've been very clear with Premier Smith and with the Prime Minister that I believe that the tanker ban off the coast of British Columbia is there for a reason. It's been there across multiple governments for a very clear reason. It's an incredibly treacherous stretch of water. A spill of bitumen will decimate the North Coast economy, causing billions of dollars in damage. And there are alternatives to this project that are far more realistic and timely, not the least of which is the optimization of the publicly owned Trans Mountain Pipeline project, a project that the public already owns. It's not operating at capacity and could take significant additional capacity within a short period of time. And so, I understand the Prime Minister and the Premier of Alberta are committed to a new pipeline through British Columbia. I understand their constitutional, the Prime Minister's constitutional authority anyway, with respect to that project. And so they have committed to keep us posted in British Columbia. But I also want to underline that that this project is obviously, to the extent that it exists, at a very early stage.
Conversation between you and Danielle Smith before today?
We have an open line of communication between our two provinces. Premier Smith knows absolutely my position. I know hers. And we aren't letting that interfere with our ability to work together on areas of shared interest.
Premier Ian Bailey, Globe and Mail. Premier Ford earlier today, said that a win for the PQ, the Parti Québécois, in the Quebec election later this year would be a disaster for Canada, given the PQ's commitment to a sovereignty referendum and the need for the country to unite. Several of the other premiers who've come to the podium before you have responded to this. What's your view on this? And how is that view shaped in the sense or in light of sovereignty in Alberta? So how do you balance it?
Yeah, for me, for British Columbians, there's really only one path forward for Canadians, and that's through a unified country. All of us working together, respecting each other's differences, and committing to respond to the very real threat that we're facing as a result of the President's policy south of the border. I would encourage, and I have encouraged, all premiers to strongly discourage separatist sentiment in provinces. Now is the time for us all to pull together. And that's the case whether it's Alberta or Quebec or anywhere else. Proposals of Cascadia, of British Columbia joining the West Coast states are always a smile for people, but the true path forward for us is within Canada.
Thank you very much.
Hélène Buzetti, Les Corps de l'Information. Just want to go back to the pipeline. MP Hogan today said that the West Coast is quite large and the pipeline could exit at many places and not so much in the north where the tanker ban is in place. What do you think of that idea of maybe having a pipeline somewhere else? Would that be a good compromise?
Well, I think, the suggestion illustrates why I'm so challenged by this conversation. British Columbia has 5 LNG projects that are either under construction or are reaching final investment decision within the next year. And so the focus, I believe, of the federal government, if they wish to grow the federal GDP, create opportunities for all Canadians, British Columbians, but not exclusively British Columbians, create federal tax revenues that pay for services across the country. The focus has to be on real projects that are getting delivered, that are going to be reaching final investment decision, privately funded, worth tens of billions of dollars. LNG Canada Phase 2 is the largest private sector investment in Canadian history. That reaches final investment decision this year. We should be all hands on deck delivering those projects, but also responding to the reality that these are projects affecting very small communities that need help with infrastructure and other supports to be able to respond to the massive number of people who are going to be working on these projects from across the country. So the fact that we still don't know the route of this proposed pipeline, that there is no proponent, that there's no money for it, Premier Smith is going to work on it. I respect that, but I am encouraging all of us to stay focused on what we're trying to do here and advance conversations of mutual interest.
Respect, you didn't respond to my colleague's question about A.V. Lewis saying NDPers are baffled by your focus on NLG. Can you just address that, please?
Yes, I'm not supporting any of the candidates within the federal leadership, nor am I denigrating any of them. The members will find the right path forward for our federal party.
Hi, I'm Aya with iPolitics. Would you consider a pipeline proposal that lifts the oil tanker ban in the Dixon entrance while maintaining it in the Hecate Strait?
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not engaging in negotiations about this pipeline project proposal from Alberta. It is their responsibility. It's their baby. They're bringing it forward. They're proposing it. They're working with the federal government. They're going to do that. They're committing to keep us up to date. They understand my concern, both with respect to our relationship with the First Nations along the coast, whose partnership is crucial for us to deliver tens of billions of dollars of projects for Canadians. And they understand my concerns about the impacts of an oil spill on the North Coast as well. So we'll see what proposals they come forward to in terms of siting or anything else. But obviously, they're at a very early stage at best.
Thanks for taking our questions today. You also had a meeting with Prime Minister Carney earlier today.
I did.
I wonder if you can tell us more specifically about what you discussed with the Prime Minister. Was it just about the pipeline and Alberta MOU, or did you also raise support for softwood lumber industry, for example?
Yeah, no, not at all. I discussed an array of topics with the Prime Minister. We discussed the issue of extortion in Surrey, and we have a shared commitment through our ministers to ensure a meeting of police chiefs from key provinces affected by this issue, 4 different provinces, as well as national police at Green Timbers in Surrey within the next 2 weeks. We discussed softwood lumber. Particularly, I identified an opportunity for the federal government to work with the Indian government to lift the tariff that they have on softwood lumber. Currently, there's a 10% tariff for softwood lumber going to India. As part of the trade negotiations that they're having with India, I hope that they're focused on softwood. I also obviously underlined the harm that we're seeing in the softwood sector as a result of the president's policies towards softwood. We talked about FIFA and the remarkable opportunity coming to our province, as well as the need for the federal government to play a key role in security with relation to that major event. The Prime Minister certainly expressed his excitement about that project and is committed to work with us on that. We talked about the huge opportunities in British Columbia in terms of economic development, major projects, whether it's mines or energy projects, port projects, and the crucial need for infrastructure projects that the federal government has underway to support smaller communities that are really impacted by these projects. I also, as a side note, asked him about if he had any updates with respect to Iran. We have a large Iranian population in British Columbia. Their family and friends are feeling huge anxiety. The Prime Minister assured me that he had discussed this issue with the President of the United States and that they were working on providing the best support possible to Iranian Canadians to be able to find out what's happening with their relatives over there. So it was a wide-ranging conversation, and it was I very much appreciate the Prime Minister's time.
Thank you. Sorry. And just shortly, did he also give any kind of update on the CUSMA review? And because he said that they will formally start talks on it in a couple of weeks.
We're hopeful to have an update from the Prime Minister tomorrow on the CUSMA review and the plans the federal government has going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Émilie Bergeron with La Presse Canadienne. I would like to hear you about the tone of the meeting with Premier Smith and Prime Minister Carney. Obviously, you have different views than Premier Smith, so how was the tone? Is there a way to find common ground?
Yeah, I think the tone was very civil in the meeting and borderline friendly. We understand that we have a lot of shared interests between our two provinces. Alberta is our largest trading partner in British Columbia in Confederation. We have lots of overlap with Alberta. Lots of shared interests in terms of energy and electricity, and so the goal here is to respect each other's differences and move forward as best as possible. So from my perspective, that's about recognizing certainly the limits of my constitutional authority, which we went to the wall on TMX. I understand that if the Prime Minister and the Premier are committed to do this, that they will do so. But also ensuring that British Columbia's views are heard on this around spill protection and response, around the need for the tanker ban and the why it's there, the significant risk to our economy, and finally, and most crucially, the need for Indigenous consent participation if this is to go ahead, because they are our key partners on literally tens of billions of dollars in projects that are going to employ thousands of Canadians and generate billions in federal revenue.
When the MOU was signed, you were unhappy with the level of consultation that you received from Ottawa. Do you think it has improved since then? And do you feel that you are equally consulted compared to Danielle Smith?
Yeah, I think, I've made it clear to the Prime Minister and to Premier Smith that the process was backwards. We should have all been at the table at the beginning. British Columbia was not. I think that was very unfortunate. But we have to move on. Alberta is an important relationship for British Columbia. Relationship with the federal government is crucial. And so we're going to respect our differences on this file and try to find ways to work forward together.
Last question for Sergio. Sergio Vargas, Global News. StatsCan is now projecting the province of Alberta will have a higher population than BC by 2037, I believe it is. Are you concerned that it appears that Alberta is now attracting more people than British Columbia?
Well, our population grew by about 300,000 people in just a couple of years. We're grappling with that in terms of schools, hospitals, infrastructure. Population growth is a significant issue for British Columbia. The reason why I believe we're seeing changes in population in British Columbia going forward is our immigration numbers have been reduced dramatically by the federal government. This has very serious consequences for us through our provincial nominee program. It means that we can't recruit the level of health workers we need, the entrepreneurs, the technical specialists that help us grow our economy to the level that we'd like to. So immigration will be one of the key issues we'll be raising with the Prime Minister around the Council of Federation table tomorrow.
And sorry, just to follow up on extortion, you mentioned you brought it up with the Prime Minister. Were there any concrete specific commitments that the Prime Minister made in order to be able to tackle this issue in BC?
Yes, there were two agreements that we reached together with our ministers. The first was that we'll be having a gathering. The national coordinator of this investigation from the RCMP will be bringing forward the chiefs of police from Manitoba, Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia, as well as national police together at Green Timbers in Surrey to ensure that there are no gaps in information sharing and that all resources required have been delivered to ensure these investigations are concluded with arrests and prosecutions. The second component of what we discussed is the Prime Minister committed, and as did his minister, that there would be an increase in RCMP resources for British Columbia on this file, which will enable us to have additional CFSEU or gang task force members participating in the overall effort in Surrey and south of the Fraser.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.